Okay, in this video we're going to discuss 16th note rhythms, and we're going to talk about them played two different ways, played straight and played alternating. So I'm going to demo number 2, exercise number 2. How do we count 16ths? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. It would be a good idea to count them as you play them. I'm going to play them straight to start off with, which means all the notes are in my left hand, your right hand, since you're a righty. So the alternating is going back and forth on the high end. We'll get to that in a little bit. But straight just means all the notes in one hand. My left, your right. And I'm going to count 16th notes as I play number 2. Here we go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Now I'll play them as an alternating pattern. So my hands are going to go back and forth like this. So I know that could be tricky, but my suggestion would be just to play that very, very slowly at first. You can play it without the bass if you want, if that's any easier. Just using your hands in a simple fashion like this would make it pretty easy to start off with. You might want to count to make sure that that snare is on 2 and 4. So remember, my left hand is playing the snare here, but on your kit, you're going to be playing the snare with your right hand. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. If you add the bass drum on beats 1 and 3, it sounds like this. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, so that's how that works. It's a little tricky. We don't really play alternating notes on the ride cymbal. That's typically not done. It's mostly used on the hi-hat. So it's okay to just ignore the ride cymbal at this point. You can practice these rhythms as 2-measure, 4-measure, or 8-measure phrases, just like we did with the 8th notes from the previous page. And I would count the rhythms as you went through. Remember, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. The biggest thing to think about when playing 16th notes is the difference in our snare hand, obviously. Your right hand or your left hand is going to be playing the snare when you're playing straight notes with your right, and your right hand is going to be playing on the snare when you're leading with your right hand on the hi-hat. So that's what makes it a little tricky. One way to play these notes gets played with your left hand on the snare, and the other one gets played with your right. So it can be a little tricky there. What I would suggest you do on each of these rhythms is go very, very slowly, especially as you progress down the page. Because as you know, these rhythms will get a little harder to do. So concentrate on playing them very evenly and very slowly at first. And again, don't worry about the ride cymbal, but do practice them using both methods, straight with one hand or alternating with 2. That'll do it for this video.